everyone, and welcome to the Health Tech Edge, where we talk about the latest topics in healthcare technology with industry experts. I'm your host, Zoe Jacobs. Joining us today is our weekly panelist, Raheel Redawala, Chief Strategy Officer at Productive Edge, and our featured guest is Nick Sanghvi, VP of Alliances and Business Development at Caspio. Thank you so much both for joining us.
Thank you, Zoe.
So today we're going to talk about the applications of no-code, low-code solutions in healthcare. These days, we're seeing more and more doctors and healthcare professionals that are building their own applications because they see day-to-day a unique gap that they need to fill. They're taking it into their own hands to make these solutions that they need, and they need that flexibility. So Nick, what are the top things that you're seeing where healthcare practitioners are using a no-code, low-code platform like Caspio?
Yeah, that's a great question to tee off the conversation, Zoe. So, what we are seeing here at Caspio, of course, just for those in the audience who are not familiar with Caspio, we are one of the leading low-code, no-code platforms. And incidentally, healthcare is our top vertical as well. On the spectrum of customers that are using Caspio, we see on the one end digital health startups like Snap Healthcare, Grapefruit Health, and others that really value time to market in the speed and agility with which to develop and iterate on application development. And on the other end, we see really large healthcare organizations like Emory Healthcare, Johns Hopkins, etc., that are using us for reporting and dashboards and workflows, etc.
So Nick, how when it comes to healthcare organization, let's talk a little bit about both, right? Let's talk a little bit about the digital health companies that you talked about, and then the actual healthcare organizations themselves. Starting with the healthcare organizations, I'm curious. How does the journey begin for healthcare practitioners specifically that realize, hey, I've got a friction in this process here. I need efficiencies in a certain area here. How does the process start with somebody deciding that they should be thinking about a no-code or low-code app, and then how does that scale within the organization, and how does it get governed eventually when it's actually being used?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those are great questions, Raheel. So typically what we have seen with some of these larger organizations like an Emory or a Johns Hopkins, etc., is that there'll be some stakeholders. It could be either in finance or marketing or on the customer service side, that will they realize that whatever systems they've been using, either sometimes it's not even a system at all, right? Sometimes it's just a mess of Excel spreadsheets or Google spreadsheets and access databases, etc., and everyone's kind of come up with their own little way of doing things, and information is all in silos. It's not secure, or it's not, to your point, governed properly. That's when some of these stakeholders realize that, hey, it's time to get all of this together in a single system that is secure and compliant, etc. And that's when most of them typically embark on their search for one of these systems. Now, oftentimes, their use cases are unique in the sense that there is not typically an off-the-shelf solution that will really meet their needs directly. It will, even if they end up buying something, it will like meet maybe half their requirements, and then the other half to kind of fit it in is going to require a lot of complex customization. Whereas, and then in that journey, they often come across low-code, no-code platforms such as ours, and then they're like, the beauty with platforms like ours is they can adapt our platform to suit exactly the business processes or the requirements at their end, rather than the other way around. And it can be done much faster than coding it from scratch.
Right. Makes sense. And I think that's really the value proposition of no-code, low-code applications. There is also, though, in healthcare, there is an issue of, regulations and PII data, as well as the need to actually comply and demonstrate you're complying to that. If some of those use cases end up really driving the business processes more on the care delivery side, not necessarily on the finance or the marketing and some of the more horizontal sort of use cases, but when it comes down to care delivery sides, how are you seeing Caspio being used in those scenarios?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Rahil, in fact, so we are a HIPAA compliant platform, and as well as compliant with most of the other major security and privacy regulations. So SOC 2, Type 2 certified, etc. But more specifically for healthcare, the fact that we are HIPAA compliant and that we are one of the very few search platforms in our space is actually what has driven a huge uptake of Caspio within the healthcare space. And so you're right that whenever our healthcare customers, even if they're actually just talking about finance or marketing, but they're always like, hey, should the use cases expand tomorrow? I want it to be future proof, and so let me just look at HIPAA compliant platforms. And so of course it's not just our use cases, not just limited to finance or marketing. There are in fact these digital health startups that I spoke about. There's in fact even state of Minnesota's healthcare exchange also uses Caspio. Several health departments of several states, such as Tennessee and Florida and others, also use Caspio as well. So for all of them, privacy, security, compliance is really top of the mind when they end up choosing a platform like Caspio. They also do make us go through rigorous, security audits and questionnaires, and they're always satisfied with what they see.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's good to hear. And I think our listeners, who are thinking about the applications of low code, no code, are worrying, especially in healthcare, are worrying about those things. So it's good to know that you've got good examples that they can go to and understand and see how others are doing and using the platforms. I guess one of the things that we constantly hear is the rapid innovation in no code, low code. I mean, the idea of automation, of course, is inherently built into, no code, low code. And then you've got a ton of innovation happening on things like ChatGPT and other areas like that. And then we heard Microsoft announce this idea of a co-pilot as part of their Power Apps. How is Caspio thinking about, really the role of automation? How far it's going to go, and so what is your roadmap for thinking about really embedding that as part of your core platform, but more importantly, how does that relate back to some interesting healthcare use cases?
Yeah, no, fantastic question, and very timely as well. I mean, right now AI is definitely on top of mind for everyone. We also ourselves have definitely explored ChatGPT. Some of our teams, in fact, extensively use ChatGPT, as well as various other AI applications. For example, HubSpot also recently came out with their own AI tool called ChatSpot. ChatSpot is, I think, what they call it, but significantly improves the way marketing can generate collateral, etc. On our end, to answer the first part of your question around automation, so we were always thinking about how can we, make streamline business processes, make them faster. In the automation journey, if we all kind of remember, the way it's kind of evolved over the years, there were these BPM, business process management platforms such as Pega, etc., that came out.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next wave was intelligent automation tools such as UiPath and Blue Prism, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they would create bots that would mimic the keystrokes and mouse strokes of humans, basically. What we feel is that low code, no code is the next wave in that evolution, where instead of just creating simple bots that just copy what humans are doing, with low code, no code, businesses get a chance to actually look at the entire workflow, the entire way the informations are flowing from one endpoint to the other, and see how they can best optimize them, right? And then partners such as Productive Edge help them in actually making sense of their entire business process and implementing it on a low-code, no-code platform. So that was one part, the first part of your question. The second around AI, we are definitely actively exploring our product and engineering teams, and in fact, our CEO, opened up the conversation to the entire company over our team's messaging platform, and saw several great responses and ideas coming in of how we can, incorporate AI into the platform. So from things such as give me a report of sales by quarter and by region, right? A simple writing it in natural language, and then seeing a report getting generated for you right there without having to do any tinkering around of columns and rows and all of that. So simple things like that, all the way through to building our entire applications based upon just natural language commands. So we are exploring all of those ways in which we can incorporate AI.
Okay. I mean, those are great. Great to hear that you are. I think let's go back to the automation conversation for one more second. You had mentioned that companies like UiPath, though they've started off, as you correctly pointed out, as simple bots that do a lot of the replication of handwork, copy paste, et cetera. More and more of the bots that companies like UiPath are building incorporate AI, machine learning in them, so they can do some intelligent thinking things, whether it might be reviewing documents or looking at some data to decide triaging a claims order in one way or another, or one queue versus another. So those are use cases that are quite prevalent. I think the difference is when you think about automation platforms like UiPath. One of the things that they do come with is a very strong orchestration engine, right? So you're able to orchestrate the business process and then have a variety of bots play roles. What they don't necessarily go all the way is the UI development and the application development that goes along with experience that a nurse may see, or a physician might have, or a caregiver might have, or a contact center person may have. And I think that's where the low-code, no-code value proposition really shines. I wonder, though, if you do or have considered partnering with the automation vendors, like the UiPaths of the world, where some of their bots can actually plug into more of the higher level experience generation that Caspio can rapidly bring to market.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Rahil. And again, of course, all of these companies, UiPath, Automation Anywhere, have now, grown much, from their origins that were around those bots. And we see an interplay of a variety of these systems across many of our, especially the enterprise customer landscapes and their tech stacks. And so we are actively in conversations, especially with, on the process discovery side or the process mining side, vendors such as Celonis, Sirocco, etc., that can help, again, using various AI tools, they can help flesh out an entire business process without someone having to go in and just create it all manually, painstakingly, right? So once those business processes are all identified and mapped out, then you can plug in, say a couple of UiPath bots in one place, and wherever there's human interaction on the form side or report side, etc., there can be Caspio, etc. So yeah, absolutely.
I actually think that's a really important use case, and I think coming all the way back circle to governance and IT. What would you say to CIOs who may not have necessarily started the journey on low code, no code, but then are finding themselves having to really create the enablement and the governance required to ensure that the tools are sustainable and can scale appropriately. And when you combine that with other automation capabilities and AI capabilities, what would you recommend for CIOs who are thinking about this or may have already found themselves in a situation where, tools are already out there, what should they think about?
That's a great point, Rahil. So what I would say is that this is the coming age of low code, no code. In fact, it's already upon us. And they don't need to take my word for it. They can check with Gartner, Forrester, or any number of analysts who are all saying that the future belongs to low code, no code. So while on the one hand, if you are an Uber or a Facebook, your the core application that's the actual app that's being used by your customers is you're very likely to put very sophisticated technical and engineering resources behind that. But for everything else, you don't need to necessarily go in and start coding from scratch, and those days are gone. And so my message to CIOs would be embrace low code, no code, because your teams very likely in your business users, your citizen developers are very likely already using these tools in your company right now, whether you know that or not. So I would recommend that they embrace this, and rather than pockets of shadow IT mushrooming all over the organization, and then suddenly when they do an audit, they find that, hey, there's like 10 low code, no code tools being used by like 10 different teams. Rather than that, come in, evaluate these platforms, and shortlist some of them, saying that, hey, these are the low code, no code tools that we have shortlisted and that we recommend for so and so use cases, and encourage the citizen developer movement, along with putting in a governance framework so that these applications that your businesses end up developing, they still stay compliant and secure.
Right. Easier said than done, but there's, I'm
Yes,
sure, a lot of learnings, and of course, we at Productive Edge think a lot about that as well.
Exactly. That's where, of course, folks like Productive Edge come in to help CIOs in that journey. So absolutely.
Definitely. And also helping them identify where an out-of-the-box solution or an enterprise-level platform makes the most sense versus, right, that decision of a low-code, no-code platform. So we have time for just one more question. I'm wondering, Nick, you've probably seen a lot of really interesting applications of Caspio out there. Can you give us one example? Don't have to necessarily name the company organization, but just a really innovative way that you've seen someone use a no-code, low-code platform. Maybe something unexpected that surprised you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, staying within the space of digital health, I would love to talk about one of our great marquee clients, Snap Healthcare. And they are a digital health startup. During the COVID pandemic, they had to pivot their business. Their usual regular business kind of suffered a decline, but they saw this huge opportunity. Hey, everyone has to get vaccinated. Everyone has to demonstrate proof of vaccination or testing or whatever else. So they pivoted their entire business model. What they also realized is that time is very limited. You cannot build this from the ground up like we would have loved to do in the old days, right? So they identified Caspio as their platform of choice. They built out their entire startup. They pivoted over to Caspio, where now they are talking to hundreds of labs across the US using HL7/FHIR integrations and staying HIPAA compliant. And this entire business today runs on Caspio. They're fantastic customers, and they're really happy with Caspio.
That's so cool. What an interesting example. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for talking with us. It was great to have you on. Thank you, Rahil, also for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Health Tech Edge. Take care.